What if your AI could suddenly remember everything about your project? Your architecture, your dependencies, your code pattern. This is exactly what the Context Engineer MCP helps you achieve, and I'm going to demonstrate to you today how this works, how you can set it up in your local environment, and how to finally start writing production-ready code using Cursor, Cloud Code, and other AI coding agents that support the MCP protocol. Hi everyone, I'm Alex, the founder of Context Engineering, and today I'm going to show you how to install the Context Engineer MCP in your local environment. Once we have done that, we'll be able to use it to plan our next feature, and you will be able to see how this process and this workflow will allow to create all the documents that your AI agents needs in order to accomplish anything without losing context along the way. Let's get into it. Once you're in your dashboard, you will need to complete your setup in order to connect the MCP to your local environment. So just click on the complete setup button, and here you will find a full process that will guide you end to end from generating the access key all the way through your first planning session. So let's start by clicking generate access key and get access to our API key. The next step is choosing which platform we want to use to integrate the Context Engineer MCP. We are going to be using Claude Code. And so here you will find the instructions, both manual setup if you're more technical and you want to do this yourself, or you can just also copy and paste this prompt in Claude Code, and it will automatically install with the correct settings everything for you. Let's do just that. There you go. So while it's doing that, I'm gonna say that I've done this. So now in the dashboard, you will see a section that is basically waiting for the connection to be established. Let's go back to Claude Code real quick. Okay, you got the correct command. Do you want to proceed? Yes. Excellent. The Context Engineer server has been successfully added. You want to check? All right, let's check. And as you can see, we have it here. It is connected, and the connection was successfully established. And now the last step is to actually start a planning session using the Context Engineer. Before doing that, we will restart Claude Code, because sometimes it's better to start with a fresh new session in order for the MCP to be loaded in the current session of Claude Code. And yeah, our dashboard is still waiting for us to start a planning session. And to do that, we can just say, I want to plan something. So what is this something that we are going to plan? I'm currently in the main repo of the Context Engineer MCP, where there is all the code, all the logic, all the website. And today we're going to add a new section to the site, which is the documentation section. So the way that it's going to work is that I will be able to add a .md file in my repo, and then at build time, we will build the docs section on the site. And so here, I'm going to just say, for now, I want to plan adding a new public the documentation section on the site using the same system we used for the blog. So now Claude Code should be able to recognize that this is a request for planning a new feature, and it should, here you go, call the plan feature tool from the Context Engineer, which will start a structured workflow that will go from getting your initial request, this very high-level request that we did, gathering initial context by looking at your code base, which is what is happening now on the screen. As you can see, it's gonna check and look how the blog was built, because I said that I want to use the same system that we were using for the blog. And after that, it will ask follow-up questions to gather even more context, because as you saw, this initial request that we did was very high levels. But before, we want it to understand how the code base works, understand the existing patterns, the current architecture, such that when it formulates the new questions, the follow-up questions, it does it in a way that is Codebase-Aware. So it's not going to ask just general questions, but it's going to ask very specific Codebase-Aware questions that will help us plan everything in accordance to established patterns and all the conventions that we are already using. So you see, identify two main categories: UI components, documentation layout, navigation, content presentation, and then data management, how we organize the files, content taxonomy, and all of that. It's asking if we like this. We say yes, we like it. I have 8 AI-enhanced questions tailored for your Hugo-based blog system to create your perfect documentation plan. So the first question is, I see that you're using Hugo with the minimal blog theme for your blog. Should the documentation section use the same theme for consistency, or would you prefer a dedicated documentation theme? So as you see, this is a very good question. And of course, for the documentation, we want a dedicated theme, not using the same as the blog. So we're gonna just write that. All right, next question. Your blog is served at /blog path. What URL structure do you want for the docs? Next question. Your blog uses markdown files with front matter, title, date, categories, and so on. So as you can see, the good thing about this is that you can ask follow-up questions, so you can have kind of a conversation. And once you're happy with the spec, then you can tell the context engineer, he will memorize that and he will use that to create the plan later on in the process. Next question, content organization. I notice your blog content is in blog source content as a flat markdown files. How should the documentation be organized? Okay, this is important. Your blog build process uses a script, handles Hugo building and sitemap generation. Should the documentation build be integrated into the same script, or would you prefer a separate script? So now we should be done with all the questions. What we want to avoid is that we just dump the whole context to the AI agent all at once and then expect the AI agent to perform well. That is not going to happen. Putting too much context all at once in the context window of the agents is as bad as providing no context at all. So we want to structure all the information, all the requirements and everything in a way that is going to allow us to provide the minimum amount of context that will cover the whole task that needs to be completed without overdoing it, basically. So it's going to be a product requirement documents where we're going to put all the high level requirements. That is going to be one set of context info that is going to be stored in this document. And then the second document that we are going to generate is the technical blueprint. In this document, there is going to be both a high level architecture and data flow chart, which is going to map exactly the delta changes that we are going to make. So there is going to be a chart about the current architecture, and then another chart which is going to show how the same architecture should look like once the feature is added. Finally, all of this is going to be synthesized in a specific task file, which is what we are actually gonna be using when we are in the implementation phase. As you can see, it created a new folder in the repo with 3 documents, and here is a breakdown of everything that is in it. PRD with 23 functional requirements, 15 non-functional requirements, 11 user stories, success metrics and technical consideration, technical blueprint, current versus target system diagrams, 7 implementation phases, data models with front matter schema, risk mitigation strategies, and complete testing strategy. And then finally the task, 17 major task groups with 150 plus subtasks, covering everything from infrastructure setup to deployment and integration. And yeah, let's take a look at how some of these looks like. So let's start with the technical blueprint, which will show you what I was referring to before, the mermaid chart with the current system architecture versus the target system architecture. So basically, this is also for me like a good way to check if the agent actually got what we need to do, because if this transition from the current system architecture to the new one makes sense and is correct, then I'm pretty confident that the rest of the plan and also the tasks and everything that we are going to do during the implementation phase has been correctly planned. And so here, as you can see, it starts from the current setup where we have just the blog, which uses as a reference because we said we want to use the same system, and then it adds all the different pieces for the docs as well and integrate it correctly in the architecture. And same thing for the data flow and logic. So this is how it currently works. Is a user makes a request to the browser via Express gets the content from the blog, And here is gonna do the same thing with the docs. And here you will have all the rest of the documents, also the directory structure, how it's gonna be done, and the sitemap model, and formatter examples, and all the different phases. What I also like is this technical risk and mitigation plan. So here it identified what are all the different risks of doing this in the current project, and what could be the impact and the probability of it happening, and what are the mitigation strategies that we need to take into account to basically avoid these risks. Finally, I want to show you this file, which is basically the main file that you are going to be using for your implementation, because in this document is basically there is all the context that we provided in this whole process, from the initial request to all the steps that we went through, including all the other documents that have been created. There are parts of it that are distilled here in the different tasks. Each single task that you find here, you see it's a specific instruction. Create the doc source directory, then create the structure, then install Hugobook theme, and so on and so forth. So this is what I mean with creating providing the right amount of context at the right time. As you see, like from all this process that we went through, we provided everything, and now all the context is organized such that at this step, the AI agent doesn't need to take care of this thing here, right? Which is what would happen if you would just provide all this context at once without any organization. So you can just start with task one, go one by one. Once the full subtask list is done, you can start testing it. One thing that I recommend is that you test often, and even with simple tests, like it doesn't have to be like there are like more complicated tests that you can run at the end in the testing phase, end-to-end testing. But in my experience, is always good to not wait to reach this point to run simple tests, even with simple script, or if with command line it's possible to test. What I like to do is once I start one set of tasks, once the whole group is done, I will find a way to test that kind of this is doing what is expected to do. It takes very little time to do it, but it just gives you peace of mind. And once I'm kind of okay with it, I just commit this thing and I start the second one. And I go like this until all these tasks are done. And then once everything is done, of course, you will run the end-to-end testing to make sure that everything is working as expected. And there are no surprises. So this was it. It was a bit of a long video, but I hope that you now have a clear understanding of how the whole process works end-to-end, how to install the Context Engineer MCP in your local environment, and how to start using it, generate the plan, what each document needs, and how to use it during your development. If you have any other questions, send me a message at alex@contextengineering.ai, and I'll be happy to reply and help you out with any other questions that you might have. Goodbye.